Hello everyone, it's Tracy. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks very much for joining me. Today I'm doing the assembly tutorial for the 3D locker. This project has been designed by Nicole Silhouette here on YouTube, and I shall link her YouTube channel in the description box below. The 3D locker is only available as a digital cutting file in Nicole's Etsy store, and I shall link that in the description box also. Let's get started. I have all the pieces cut out here and I shall go through them with you now. So here are some of the pieces. I'll start going through them with you now. So we have the pieces that are the top and the bottom of the locker, and you can see where I've put the double-sided tape and folded along the score lines. That's the top and the bottom. They're both the same. This is the back of the locker, and you can see where I've folded along the score lines and put double-sided tape on the glue tabs. Next up we have the pieces that make up the frame for the door. This is the front of the locker, and you can see I've put double-sided tape and folded along the score lines. So this is the opening that the door will go in. These two pieces here are reinforcing pieces, and they're going to go on the inside edge of the door frame, like so. And this adds some strength as well as providing a closing stop for the door, so that when the door is closing it doesn't continue to close straight through to the inside of the locker. And you'll see that a bit more in the assembly tutorial. Next up we have the two pieces that make up the door. This is the decorative panel that goes on the front. You see the air vents there. And then we have the door piece, and you can see that there's a glue tab on that right hand side, and I've put double-sided tape on it. These pieces here make up the handle for the door. We've got the plate here, and then these decorative edge pieces. One I've cut from silver and two I've cut from white cardstock for some added dimension. And then for the actual handle piece, I do have one of these little handle things from AliExpress, and you will see that I use them a lot, as does Nicole, and that just goes in place like so as the handle, which will get attached to the front of the door, like so. Then we have these two pieces here. They are the two sides to the locker. And also we have two 1-inch circles cut from white cardstock. I'm just showing you here that they are 1 inch in diameter. And we'll use these 1-inch circles along with some magnets for a magnetic closure on the locker door. So these magnets are very small. They're less than 1 millimeter in thickness and probably around about 5 millimeters in diameter. Very small indeed. So we'll get started now on the assembly of the locker, now that we've gone through all of the pieces that we need. And to begin with, we're going to start putting the door and the front of the locker together. So I've got the pieces here. I have the door piece, and that's going to go inside and be stuck on the inside edge of the front of the door frame, as I'm showing here. And I've got the reinforcing pieces there to the right hand side. So I'm just taking the backings off the adhesive on that glue tab on the door, and you can see I'm just flattening out that door frame, and I'm going to attach the door to the back side of it, taking care to line this up, being precise as I can. If you're not just precise here, the door will get stuck as it's opening and closing. I'm just going to press that down well with my burnishing tool and make sure that it's looking good from the back and that it's opening. Just making sure that that fold is getting a good memory. Then I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to stick these two reinforcing pieces on the back side of the front of that door frame. Just removing the backings off the tape. You can use glue here, but for the ease and convenience of the tutorial, I'm using double-sided tape. You will need to take care here when you're putting this into position, particularly if you're using double-sided tape. This lines up against that inside edge of the front of the locker. And when you're putting double-sided tape around the edge, you don't want to go all the way to that inside edge of the opening. And I'll show you why in a minute. Just taking care here to line this up precisely and pressing it down. So when that's stuck down and you open it, you can see that it is larger than the door frame. And this is to create that stop for the door so that the door doesn't swing inside as well. Next up, we'll add the second one. This is for strength. Just taking the backings off, and we'll line this up precisely exactly over the top of the one we just put into place. And if you don't put this into position properly, it will affect the way the door opens and closes. So taking care to line it up precisely on top of the other one. And this is on the inside edge of the front of the door frame. Just pressing that all down. And there we have the front of our locker with the door that opens and closes. Then I'm going to take the two side pieces and I'm going to build the locker up from here. I'm going to attach the right hand side to the locker, taking care to line it up with the score lines and the edges. And then I'm going to move over to the other side and put the other side on as well. Taking care to be precise before pressing it into place. You can see this is starting to take shape. The front of the locker and the two sides. Next I'm going to put the top and bottom into place. And that's these two pieces here. They're going to go in place like so. So I'm going to take the adhesive off the bottom of the door, the glue tab that's below the door I should say, and press that into position, lining it up precisely before pressing it into place. Turn around, do the other end. This is quite a big project, so it doesn't quite all fit in frame. So I apologise for that. I'm going to turn this all over and start joining the sides to the bottom and the top. So just taking the backings off that glue tab and joining either the top or the bottom there to the side. Do the same thing on the other end. This is not a difficult project to put together. And then I'm going to press down with my burnishing tool. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Joining the sides to the top and the bottom to make our rectangle locker shape. So just getting this last side sealed up. Then I'm going to press that down with my burnishing tool, and now we have top, bottom, sides and the front of the locker. And things are still working as they should. So now it's time to put the back on, and I have it here, and I'm just going to remove one backing from one glue tab at a time. I'm taking care to line this up as precisely as I can. You can, if you like, build it from the back up and put the sides on, the top on the back, and then put the front in place. It doesn't make any difference. This is just the way I did it. You could have easier access by leaving the front to last to put on, because then you've got the door opening to be able to get in and press things down, but this wasn't too difficult. It just got a bit tight putting these end tabs in. I just had to pull things wider so that I could fold the glue tab into position and glue it, but it wasn't a big deal. It's entirely up to you how you choose to put it together. So I'm just doing the same on the other end, just getting those shorter side tabs stuck down into place. And then I'm going to go inside with my burnishing tool and press down on all of those glue tabs to make sure that they're all stuck down nice and securely. And our locker, as you can see, is nearly finished. The main construction is completed. So just making sure they're all stuck down nicely. And there we have the main structure of the locker finished. So I've got the front of the locker here, the decorative panel, and I'm going to put that into position now on the front of the door. And on the back of my decorative panel here, I've put some double-sided adhesive, the one that you can get in the sheet from Altenew. And I'm just peeling the backing off here, and then I'm going to put it into position onto the door. It's just easier for the tutorial to use double-sided tape, because then you don't have to wait for the glue to dry. And you'll notice with this door panel that the 3 lines, the vents, that's at the top of the door, and the more lines is actually down the bottom. So I'm just making sure that I'm getting things lined up nicely here. And it is tricky trying to line things up when you're filming. So I'm just making sure that's in position nicely. Then I'm going to open it out so it's flat and press it down. And again with my burnishing tool, making sure all that double-sided tape is getting a good stick. So I'm showing you here that the 3 are at the top and the more lines are down the bottom. And I'm just checking now to make sure everything's looking nice and that the door is closing nicely. I'm just trying to open it without a handle. And now I'm going to take these 1-inch circles, and they're going to be glued into the corner like I'm showing. I'm just going to put glue on it and stick it right into the corner like so. On the bottom left-hand corner and the top left-hand corner. So I've done the bottom left, now I'm doing the top right. And it just goes right up into that corner. So I've just glued that into position. And these are going to hide the magnets that will keep the door closed. So I'm going to put the magnets into position now, and I've got them on double-sided dots, little sticky dots, and I'm just putting that magnet in behind so that you can't see it. I'm just checking that it's in good position, and it's pretty much there where I'm indicating with my pokey tool. Then I'm going to put the other one in on the top. It's just going to go in behind, and they have a adhesive dot on them to stick them in. So I'm just putting that into position right where my finger is. Going to give it a good press so it gets a good stick. Then I'm going to take the other magnet, because the 2 magnets need to be attached to each other, and I'm going to put it sticky side up towards the camera, so the sticky dot is facing up, and I'm going to let the magnets attach to each other, that way the positioning is right. My sticky dot came off, so I'm just putting it back on here. So these magnets are just attached to each other through the magnetic force, and the sticky dot is facing up towards the camera. Sorry, I'm a bit off frame there. So the sticky dot wants to come off. So we've got sticky side facing up, then I'm going to close the door down onto that stick Give it a bit of a rub. Hopefully that's catching the magnet, which it has on both ends there, and then I'm going to press them firmly and let them shut. Now I'm going to put the pieces for the door handle together, and for the other little handle piece here, I'm actually going to put that on with one of these little dots as well. I could use hot glue, but this was to hand, so I'm using it. So I'm just going to glue the two white rim pieces here to each other. And then I'm going to attach the silver one. The silver one being the one that goes on the top. Just making sure things are sticking together nicely. It's always very tricky when you're trying to put glue on such a small area. So I'm just trying not to handle the silver mirror board too much with the glue that's on my fingers. If you do get glue on your silver mirror board though, it is easily wiped away with a dry cloth. Or a baby wipe works well too. So I'm going to stick this, which is now 3 layers thick, onto that base plate that has the hole in it. So you could put a brad through that hole if you wanted, and that would make a good handle too. So I'm just wiping away the glue that has gotten onto the silver mirror board. And then I'm going to stick this little handle piece into position over that hole. And that's our handle done. And I'm going to stick it into position onto the front of the door like so. And I'm just going to use glue, normal glue. I could use hot glue, but the hot glue gun was not plugged in. So I'm just using what I've got on my desk here. Just making sure the glue gets good coverage, and then I'm going to stick that into position. And press it from both sides so that the glue gets a good hold. And now we have a door that has a magnetic closure, and it's opening and closing very well. Next up, I'm going to put a shelf inside the locker, and to do that I'm going to use one of the top pieces. This is what we use for the top or the bottom. I'm going to put it into position. So I'm just indicating there that it's either the top or the bottom piece. And you'll see that when you just use it like this, just the original thickness, it's quite flimsy and it's not really going to be very supportive. So I cut this piece another 2 times, and I cut the glue tabs off the extra 2 pieces. So I'm just not happy with that at all. So I've cut that another 2 times, and I've cut the glue tabs off, and I've put double-sided tape, the Ultra-New adhesive sheets, onto the back of it. You could use glue. And I'm going to stick one to the front side or the top side and one to the bottom side. And this is going to give this piece a little extra strength and integrity. So I'm just pressing that down. And then I'm going to get the other piece for the bottom. And all I've used here is the piece that makes the top or the bottom. I've just cut it out again to make the shelf, and then cut it another 2 times and cut the glue tabs off to make strengthening pieces. So now it's 3 layers thick. It's not going to go in straight. You're going to have to put it in on an angle like I'm showing here. So I'm just making sure that I'm going to be happy with the fit, and I am. So I'm just going to take it out and take the adhesive off, the backings off the adhesive before putting this into position inside the locker. So again, this is going to have to go in on an angle, and then I'm going to be able to straighten it once it's in there. And once I'm happy with the positioning of the shelf, I'll press down the glue tabs, making sure that the shelf is straight. and this really makes this locker look very authentic. So that's the locker finished how Nicole has designed it to be, and you could fill this up with goodies and send it to your friends. I think mine looks very realistic. But of course I wanted to change it up, and when Nicole did show me this as the first design, I said to her, oh, I think it needs some feet. So I've actually put some feet onto my locker. So I'm showing you something a little bit extra. The feet are not included in the digital cutting file. I'll talk a bit more about the feet in a moment. But before I put the feet on, I want to make the bottom of the locker a bit more stronger. So I've just cut some pieces to size, which again is the same as the bottom piece. I've just trimmed it down. I've cut it out twice and trimmed it down, and I'm going to stick that inside the locker. And I now have made the locker, the base of the locker, 3 layers thick. So I've got these strengthening pieces going in. And this is mainly so that when the locker is standing on its feet, the base of the locker is going to be strong. So I've just got my last piece going in here, and that has made the base of the locker strong, so that whatever's in the locker is going to be able to not make the bottom of the locker bend when the legs are on it. So I have here the feet, and you can see that there are 4 of them, and they are made from paper. Let me be very clear on this. These feet are not designed by Nicole, and they are not part of this digital cutting file. The feet I am using here have been designed by another SVG cutting file designer. So these particular feet were the perfect size for this locker, and I knew when Nicole had designed this locker that I would use these feet on it. They're the perfect size. I did not have to resize them or anything like that, and they go into position quite easily. And this locker is actually giving me vibes of a locker that I have here at home that I bought for my daughter for when she was doing school, that she could keep her school books in at home. And the company that made it and sold it was called Kmart. You may or may not have heard of Kmart. It's a big variety store here in Australia. And this locker now with these feet on it is very much giving me the Kmart locker vibes, which I'm very much loving. If you'd like to know who the designer is for these feet and the SVG cutting file kit that it came from, I'll put my email address in the description box of this video, and you can email me and I'm happy to give you that information. I will not, however, and I need to be clear on this, I will not be sharing the SVG file of these feet. If you want the same feet as what I'm using here on my locker, you will need to go to the website of this designer to purchase the SVG kit that these feet belong to. It's part of a project that's included in a kit sold by that designer. So I'm happy to give you that information, a link to the website and to that kit in an email. So there are other things that you could use for feet on this locker. You could use wooden beads and paint them to match your locker. You could use large brads as well, they would work. And there are feet that you can buy also on AliExpress, so that's an option for you too. Or even if you're savvy with your digital cutting machine, you could design your own feet. So here's a finished look of my locker, and I'm loving the way that this has turned out. It stands very well on its feet, and I could put quite a few things in this locker without worrying about the bottom sagging. So that's my tutorial finished for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching and that you feel inspired to make one of these 3D lockers. They're not that terribly difficult to make, and they could be decorated in so many different ways. I've kept mine fairly plain. If you do make one, don't forget to share it on Nicole's Facebook group, and I'm sure she'd also love to see it on Instagram too. Nicole's Instagram handle is @Nicole'sPapercrafts. You can tag me also, I would love to see as well. My Instagram handle is @TFsPapercrafts. Don't forget to check the description box down below for the links that I've previously mentioned, and if you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would really love that too. Thanks very much for watching today. Have a great day, and until next time, it's bye for now.